Morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions, or if it's late in the day, your favorite beverage and questions, I guess. What are we going to talk about today? Again, I'm going to talk about the list that I have going for the upcoming Black Friday sales. And I've got a list of stuff to see if it goes on sale, if I can get it a little bit cheaper. Some of the stuff is little $1, $2, $3 things. Other things are a little bit bigger. But I wanted to take a look. One of the items is this pedestal stand, central machinery bench grinder pedestal. $59.99 currently. No discount at the moment. I'm hoping it does get discounted. Out in my workshop, a lot of things I have are on wheels, so we can move them around, make space, and put them away neatly. It's just what happens after you accumulate stuff and you have a limited, space to work in. But I was looking at this and then I was reading through everything. And like I said, I belong to a couple of forums in a local group where we talk about, do show and tell, things like that when we're talking about this pedestal stand. And like I said, if I can get enough content where I think it's good, I compile things, put it together, make a video. Now on this, there were a few criticisms, and we kind of brainstormed some workarounds or modifications. So let's talk about it. I'll go slow and I'll show you pictures, but let's start with the very top of it. Now, on the very top of it, I'll see if I can get a picture up here. You have these elongated slots on the very top plate of this, which is cast iron. And it says, hey, it'll mount pretty much anything you want to put on there, grinders or whatever else. Well, kind of. There are some grinders that are bigger. I know, like my buffing machine that I have out in the garage, I measured the base on it and stuff. So when we went out there just to look, I noticed, well, it's not going to work. The base would actually extend a little over the length of that top plate, we'll call it right now. And okay, well, there's a workaround on that. And the first modification I would tell you, if you really like the stand and you want to buy it, is go around to your local steel suppliers. They have, most of them, I have 3 here, in the valley, like, where I live. And I go around to them and they have what they call remnants and cutoffs. And usually in the warehouse, they're put over in a pile or just thrown over there somewhere. And you can go root around and you can find pieces of plate steel. And they sell them to you at a discounted price because to them they were cutoffs. And so a lot of that way you don't have to buy the whole 4x8 sheet or 4x4 or whatever. And you can get it at a pretty good price. Now, I could take that piece of plate steel and with carriage bolts or however you want to do it, I can bolt that to that cast iron top and make a much wider base on the top of that. And then you can drill holes and mount whatever size grinder, buffing machine, or whatever tool you want to it. You could do it that way. So should you have to do it? That's up to you. Okay, I think it's an easy modification. And in a way, if you get a piece of that plate steel and you put it on there, you can make it like a little bit wider, a little bit longer, and that way it'll be able to mount pretty much anything you want to mount to it. So for me, I thought, okay, that's one way around things. I mean, if it's not going to work, that you can do, and it still becomes a very usable tool. Okay, now let's come from the top down on this. Let's go to where the water tray is. Okay, now they say there's a bolt in the back, and I saw it when I was out at the store, you tighten it. But it doesn't really keep the mounting bracket part of that water tray like nice and tight. It's kind of sloppy and loose. Now, one person suggested, hey, on one of the online comments, they marked it and they went ahead and they tapped it out. They drilled it and then they tapped it, and then instead of the bolt hitting that piece of tube steel that comes down and securing, it actually goes like into it, and then it won't move around at all. And I thought that's a great idea. But a friend of mine, when we were sitting around out at the club, said, well, if you don't have a tap and die set, all you got to do is shim it on the sides, with something. If you take even like, he said, even if you took like wood shims and shoved them in there and then busted them off and, cleaned it up or what have you, and then you tighten the bolt on the back, that'll tighten up that mounting bracket fairly darn tight. Okay, that's a good idea. So, if it bothers you that it moves around a little bit, there's a workaround there. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's talk about the base of it now. Now, they say the base of this where the pipe comes down. Now, that pipe is metal. Everything else is basically it is cast iron. But the metal pole goes down into that cast iron base. But you have a lot of slop around there, and that pole wants to move around. And so it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do to, stiffen that up? What you can do about the pole moving around are a couple of things. One guy out on the web took and just did a little weld prepping, and he put some MIG welding beads on that pole. Okay, and then he hit it with like an angle grinder, your 4.5-inch angle grinder with a flap wheel, until it snugly went down into that base. And then it didn't move around. And then he tightened it up. Then he tightened up all the tightening screws, and that thing's pretty rock solid at that point. Now that was a really good idea. Okay, well, there is another way around it. That metal pipe, I wrote it down, is 2 7/8 inch OD. Now, when you're out at the metal supply place, ask them if they have any like Schedule 40 or, even thicker, I guess you could do, but see if they have 3-inch OD. Now, 3-inch OD will fit down into, let's just say, this sloppy hole that's on that base, and it'll fit in there. And I thought, okay, well, here's the other kind of nice part about this. If you don't like the overall height of this stand, and you bought metal pipe out there as a remnant or cut off, or or even if you bought it just to the length that you wanted, you could put it on there, and you could raise this base up higher if you want to. So it's a workaround if, like I said, you don't like the height, but it's also a workaround to get rid of that slop in there. If you don't want to shim it, again, you could probably jam stuff down in there and shim it tight and then tighten the bolt. Or you could put those little MIG welding tabs in there, spot welding kind of, hit the tips with a grinder, fit it in there. So you got a few different ways, to approach making this thing nice and strong and sturdy and keeping it, nice and parallel. These are my thoughts on this when we sat around and brainstormed it, and I thought, yeah, hey, this is worth considering. So I do have it on my Black Friday wish list, and I'm going to see if they drop the price, or anywhere in the future if they drop the price. And then I'll get it, because I have a larger Delta grinder out in the garage that I would like to get it off of my workbench and onto something like that, because that way I got more bench space, obviously, and I can move it around. Okay, now there is one other thought on making this, like they said it's a little too lightweight. Well, I took a look at the weight on here. It says it weighs 30 pounds. Now, there's somebody out there, it was either, I can't remember whether it was on the forum or YouTube or wherever I read it, where what he did, he went out and bought a bag of concrete, and then after he had, everything plumb and true the way he wanted it, he filled that pipe before he put that top plate on there, he filled it with concrete. Now, he said that added about another 14 pounds to it. Okay, so if you take the 30 pounds that the stand weighs and you add the 14, okay, now you got 44 pounds. Okay, now is that enough? I don't know. You could bolt it to the ground. That's probably, what most people would think about doing. But I didn't, me personally, I don't want to do that, because I don't want it fixed like that. Like I said, I've got a limited amount of space. So yes, you could bolt it to the ground. You could stack some heavy things on there, like bags of concrete or whatever, if you find that it's moving around. I think it'll be plenty fine. The way that it is, and I'll just make sure, I put it somewhere where it's going to be secure and hopefully not walk around on me. If it's walking around on you, you probably have another problem other than just the grinder. I mean, other than just the grinder stand. Okay, so I know this is a brief video, but I'm just bringing up things that are on my, either I'm adding to them or they're on my Black Friday list. So something for you to consider. Like I said, there are some modifications, I suggested to you if you wanted, especially for me, making that, putting a piece of plate steel on the top. I can easily mount something bigger to it. All right, anyway, those are my thoughts on all of this. I hope you folks click subscribe, keep following me. I'll see you on the next video, and check out any links below. I'll see if I can find any other stands out there that are better or cheaper. Right now, like I said, this is the one on my Black Friday wish list. You folks have a great day. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.